Ooh, very, very spooky. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, September the 21st, 2020. And it's day 194 of COVID isolation, and I hope everybody is doing well. So, you saw at the beginning my haunted house display. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But first, let's take a look at my current projects, and this is my Christmas tree quilt. You have seen it in other videos before. I did an idiot quilter video last week talking about this in much more detail than I'm going to talk about it today, but it's done. I know you can't see the whole thing, but it does look like a Christmas tree, and it is all quilted now. This is the back, and looking at it through the video, and even if you were here standing almost as close as I am, you really can't see the quilting. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing, okay? I quilted this using a ruler foot template, and ruler foot quilting is a form of free motion quilting whereby you have a special foot on your sewing machine that's a little bit thicker than the usual size of a foot, and you have templates, and you basically trace with the foot the templates. It's a little bit more involved than that. That's the simplified version of it. Needless to say, it is something that I'm not good at. I'm still learning, and like all things in quilting and probably in life in general, you need to practice. And I don't like to practice. I just like to leap right in and do it. And that gets me into a lot of trouble at times. So I did do a little bit of practice and figured out which template I wanted to use to create the design or motif that I wanted to use. And the motif looked like a bit like a flower. The template was teardrop shape, and you went around, did one loop, circuit, tracing, whatever you want to call it, and then you move the template 45 degrees and did another one, and another 45 degrees and did another one, and by the time you're done you had I think it works out to about a 6-pointed flower star-like thing. And that's what I did all over this quilt. Now, the reason you can't really see it, that it is visible if you're right up close to it, is because I used a really light colored thread, and I did that on purpose. I was afraid I'd make a lot of mistakes. Therefore, I decided to use a lighter thread because it does quilt and it is the quilting, it does give it texture and everything like that, but my mistakes would not be that noticeable. Well, wouldn't you know it, I didn't make many mistakes. Well, I made a couple, very minor ones, but I made a couple. Like, for example, I, for some reason, got off the template a little bit. It's like tracing, in a way. You know, I went outside of the lines, and that happens. But because I use such a light colored thread, you can't see that. But at the same time, you can't see the quilting either. In fact, I washed this quilt. Now, that seems like a no-brainer, right? Washing a quilt. Yes and no. I often do not wash my quilts after I have made them. That comes from a fear from when I first started quilting that maybe I had missed some seams and it would come apart. Well, I washed this one, no problem. And missing seams can still happen, but I'm very, very cautious, and I usually catch if I've missed a seam right in the process of putting the quilt together, not after the fact when it becomes a major problem to fix. So I washed this because I thought that maybe the quilt will fluff up a little bit because of the batting and everything like that, and then at least you'd be able to see sort of where the quilting is, because it would, you know, puff up around those stitches. Yeah, not so much. It did puff up a little bit. It's a little bit more visible now, but again, it was such a light colored thread, you really can't see it. However, that's okay, because I learned a lot in that session. And I learned what to do and what not to do, and that is a form of practice. I just like to practice on finished pieces, whereas other people would probably do it on scraps. But if you're interested in that process at all, and you haven't seen it yet, go to my Idiot Quilter episode 81. And I explain in a lot of detail how I went about quilting this particular piece. Okay, so moving on, what else am I working on? Well, I've got bits and pieces of projects right now, and they're pretty much, a lot of them are Christmas themed. One of the things I'm doing is what they call a Dresden design Christmas table runner. This is the first panel. It's made of 4 squares. Each square looks like this, just this part up here. But this is a combination of in the hoop applique and embroidery. So underneath each one of those petals or Dresdens is a piece of fabric, which the machine sews down, you trim it around, and then away it goes and does all the embroidery. The rest of this is all embroidery. There's even some quilting. It's hard to see it because of the color, but a little bit of what they call stippling in there as well. And that's all programmed into my embroidery machine. You do 4 of these, and then you sew the 4 of them together. And this little piece in here, I didn't like it. It's just a circle when you get it done. They don't have anything in the program for filling in that circle, and I thought it looks a little stark. So what I did was I went on to Google Images. I found a snowflake I liked, a very simple one, put it into my Artistic Digitaltizer, which is a Genome program that will take JPEG files and things like that and make them into embroidery files. It does a lot more than that too. It's a very, very sophisticated program. But I simply made this, and I stitched out a bunch of these, and I used water-soluble stabilizers. So when it was stitched out, because this is not on a piece of fabric, I washed out the stabilizer. I'm left with the snowflake. Once it dries, then all I did was I used fabric glue, and rather than sew it, and tacked it down to the center piece. And fabric glue, it won't come out if this, well, you wouldn't wash this, okay? This is a purely decorative piece, okay? I would not recommend something like this be actually used as a table runner with, you know, a big pot of brown beans on it boiling over the top of it and dripping onto your table runner, okay? Wouldn't recommend it at all. Would it wash? Yeah, it would. But I would be afraid that it will go a little funny because of the way this will be constructed. So this is one of the spots on the table runner. There's going to be at least 2 more, probably 3 more. Each one will have a slightly different, I'll use the same colors, but it'll be slightly different design in the petals. Then I will put a little piece of fabric called sashing between each one of the blocks, and I will put a border around it. I'll put a backing on it, and it'll be done. This takes a long time. Anything in machine embroidery, you've heard me say it before, it takes a long time. For one of these squares, it takes about 35 minutes or so. So, you know, multiply that by 4. So you've got over 2 hours to do one of these. But I think they'll look really nice when it's done. So that's one project. What am I going to do with it when I'm done? Well, I'll put it on my table maybe, or this might be another potential gift for somebody. I don't know. We'll see. So that's one project. I'm also making some Christmas ornaments, and these are all done. These are called freestanding lace. They're all done in the embroidery machine. They're very delicate, you can see. There is a piece of fabric on this in the center. Underneath this bell and in these points, that's a piece of fabric, and so it's done in the same way as I did with the Dresden. You lay that down, the machine draws an outline, shows you where to put it, you take it, you clip it or trim it close to that stitch line, and then it does everything else on here. This is on water soluble, so when it's done, you rinse out the water soluble and you're left with this. Now, water soluble is basically a glue in what looks like a paper format, but as soon as it hits water, it dissolves. However, depending on how much you rinse that out of your creation will dictate how stiff or soft the final product is. I want this to be fairly stiff, so I leave some of the residue, more of the residue in this, and when it dries stiff. If you want it something much softer, you just rinse more of it out. So I'm going to make a bunch of these. And I had an idea yesterday when I was showing this on Stephen and Walter Live. I want to make these and give them to the ladies at Ultimate Sewing at Christmas time. And I was thinking maybe I could put these on, make a card as well, but use this as the front of the card so it's detachable. So they're getting a Christmas card, but they could take this off and use it for whatever they want. They can use it as a Christmas tree ornament. I don't know if I'll include the ribbon with it, or maybe just let them use their own ribbon. They could put it on a Christmas gift, like a tag or an extra embellishment, something like that. So I'm going to make a bunch of these, and I've got several different designs of these, and I'm going to make some angels too. And I made those last year, and they're freestanding angels, same idea, and put those together as a little, just a little something for the ladies at Ultimate Sewing. Hope they're not watching this. They probably aren't. Okay, so these take, how long do these take? These take about 50 minutes a piece to make. So yeah, it's all very time consuming. I need about like 4 embroidery machines all going at once. Assembly line. Okay, so what else have I been working on? Okay, the haunted house display you saw in the teaser. Walter made 2 of the houses. I made the mansion, and I went to the dollar store and got some bits and bobs of Halloween kind of things, decorations, and I put together a display. I put lights in the houses, and well, I'm going to insert a video to show you this display because I think it's really cute. So here's our little haunted village now. All the embroidered pieces are done. So this is one of the houses that Walter did, and then I did the mansion in the middle, and he did this one over here. And you'll notice they're changing color because there's LED lights, little individual LED lights underneath each one of these, and they're operated by remote control, and you can set them for different modes. So this is the fade mode, so it sort of cycles through different colors, which I think kind of looks nice. Then to put this all together, I went to the dollar store and I got these very suggestive skeleton figures and these pumpkins and these fake maple leaves in fall colors. And then I thought it needed some little witches on the very top of the roof. So I had a JPEG of this witch design, and I put it through my Artistic Digitizer, which is a program, computer program, that will change things into an embroidery pattern that can be used in your embroidery machine. And I made these, I double-sided them and glued them together and just put them on a wooden toothpick that I colored black using a using a Sharpie marker, and stuck them into a little piece of eraser that I also colored with the magic marker, so right down there, and stuck them up there. And I think it kind of gives a nice finishing touch to the whole thing. Now, of course, it isn't Halloween yet, and it's not Halloween for a month and a half yet, but and I don't usually decorate at Halloween, but I just, you spend all this time and effort on this kind of thing, so it deserves to be out for a while. So that's our little haunted Halloween village. So I think I'm done pretty much making Halloween stuff. It's time to think more seriously about Christmas. Yes, I know it's only September the 21st, but what, we're 3 months away from Christmas, basically. So time is flying by, so got to get on with that. The other thing that I was working on, this is more for my mixed media people. I was watching a video the other day on YouTube by a woman called Anne-Marie Ritterhoff. She is in Holland. When I first did some paint pouring, I watched some of her videos because she's into paint pouring in a major way. That's so last year. Now the whole paint pouring thing. But I hadn't checked out any of her videos for quite a while because, once you've done paint pouring, you've done paint pouring. It becomes the same old, in my opinion. Lots of people love to experiment and move beyond. And that's what Anne-Marie Ritterhoff has done. And she was taking photo paper, the type you would put in your printer if you're going to print out your pictures, snapshots. So that's the shiny photo paper. She would take a sheet, she folded it in half so that the shiny side was on inside in the fold. And then she opened it up, and along the fold line, she would drop fluid, liquid acrylics. And then she'd fold it back over and smooth it down and sort of run her hands out from the fold. And of course what that's doing is inside the paint is all getting squished together and squeezing out from it. Open it up, and she had, well, things that would look something like this. It looks like an ink blot test, but you can have a lot of fun with this. It's very easy to do. You don't even need to do it with fluid acrylics. You can use your regular tube acrylic paints in the same manner. You just squirt a couple of dots here and there in whatever colors, fold it up, and then squish it down and move your hand this way on it and pushes it out, and this is what you have. So I made a bunch of these. There's another one. There's another one. And there's another one. Now you don't have much control, of course, as to how these are going to turn out. So you never know what you get. Now I did only those 4, and I was playing around and just trying to see what would happen. Then I thought I'd take it to a different level. So I scanned each one of those into my computer, and basically when I scanned them, it enlarged them at the same time. So this one, which is the original, this is the scan version, and you can see I think I like the colors in the scan version. There's a bit of a shift in colors than the original, and I did that with all of them. And you can see, because when I scanned them, they got a little bit bigger. I then took them and put them in my Cricut. And you could do this with your Cricut. You could do this with whatever die cutting machine you have. And I decided to cut out some butterflies, because you know me and butterflies as embellishments. I love them. And this is the end product. I just mounted these on this board for display purposes. But here you go. Now, the butterflies on the outside of each of these are all done on the photo paper, but I also tried them in just ordinary cardstock. Of course, cardstock doesn't have that glossy finish to it, so they're going to be a little duller, so a bit matte, but the ones in the middle row are all done on just ordinary cardstock. Just printed them out onto the cardstock, put them into the die cutter, and away it went. I think this is really neat. And I like the end result with the butterflies. I think those would look really nice on, you know, a mixed media project or whatever you're doing. They'd look good on a card, possibly. Lots of things you can do with it. So you see, it's not just a one-off when you make these things. If you want to use them as background papers, or just backgrounds for your mixed media journal or for a card base or something like that, they'd work as well. And it's original artwork, right? It's your artwork. And you can have a little fun playing around with it. I was thinking I should play around with some of my other related acrylic products, you know, like matte medium and maybe some glazing medium, and even try a little bit of the Floetrol, which I use in paper pouring or paper paint pouring, stuff like that. You know, lots of things you could play around with, especially if you like chemicals. So I just thought that was kind of a neat technique that Anne-Marie Ritterhoff was showing. I don't think it's anything original or new. I think people have been doing this since kindergarten. But it's what you do with it, the product afterwards, I think, that makes it unique to you. I'm making butterflies. Who knows what else you could make? Do them in Christmas colors. You could probably make some really interesting looking 3D Christmas ornaments or embellishments of it. There's a lot of stuff you could do with it. So I thought I'd share that with you today. Okay, so that takes us, since I like to make things, as you know, I found a YouTube channel that, although it's more about woodworking, so those of you that like to make things using your power tools and wood, I think this will really appeal to you, but it's called I Like to Make Stuff. So here it is. This week's YouTube channel is one that I must confess that I don't go to very often, but it is very good. It's called I Like to Make Stuff, and that was the title that I centered on when I first came across this site, because being a crafter, I thought it was about crafting. And in a sense, it is. This gentleman shows you how to build a whole lot of different projects, but he does it using his workshop. So there's a lot of wood involved, there's a lot of power tools. So if you have someone in your household who wants to look at how to make things and is handy with power tools, which I am not, then this might be the site for them. There's a lot of really interesting custom designed projects for household items, for storage, things like that. And if anything, I find it very inspiring because it makes me think of other things that I might actually be able to make without having to handle a power tool. So if you're looking for some DIYs, check out I Like to Make Stuff. So the link for that's in the show notes below. The link for Stephen and Walter is there as well. And I'm going to say a little bit more about Stephen and Walter live near the end of the vlog today, so I'll come back to that. The Idiot Quilter episode 81, where I talk about this quilt behind in a little bit more detail, and I talk about a lot of other little things in there too, so if you're interested, check that out. The link's below. And then there's a link for a product I'm going to show you called Gim Owl or Gimbowl. I'm never sure which way to say it, but we'll come to that in a bit as well. And there is a link for a podcast, and this is not something I've ever done before, but I am going to talk about this particular podcast and why I have it listed. And of course, we had an art journaling group Zoom meeting this week, so that link is there too. So lots of links for you. It's a week worth of entertainment, okay? Brought to you by me. Okay, so what's pissing me off this week? Okay, COVID whiners. Whiners. Okay, you know, the kind of thing. I can't wear a mask because it's itchy and I can't breathe. I need to see other people. I can't just be isolated in my house for this disease. I have a bubble. I invite people into my bubble all the time. They're my bubble. So why are you telling me I can't have more than 10 people in my bubble? I need to work. So it's unfair to shut me down because that's my livelihood. Schools are not protecting my kids enough. You know, I can't go to my stores and shop like I used to. I can't touch things. I have to wait in line. I have to make an appointment. Wine. Do you want some cheese with that wine? Okay, yeah, I get it. There's lots to whine about right now with this whole situation. In fact, you could whine about the fact that people keep talking about the COVID and it's just getting on our nerves. More about that a little later on near the end of the vlog. It's tied in with Stephen and Walter Live, okay? But just to get back to this topic, whining will not get us anywhere, okay? Yeah, I don't like wearing a mask either. It's not because I can't breathe. It's not because I find it's like some of the whiners are going on. It's not. It's my right to choose whether I wear a mask or not. Notice I'm using my whiny voice for these kind of things because that's the way they usually sound. Yeah, whining's not going to help. Wearing a mask will help save lives. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, that's all there is to it. So shut up. Stop your whining. It's not about you. It's about all of us. Okay? I get it with the businesses. I really do. I really feel sorry for them, and I'm trying to do my part the best I can to support my local little mom and pop shops, my hairdresser, you know, the quilting store, any of those little things there, because I know it's a rough go for them. Walmarts and Targets in the world will survive, but it's the little guys and, you know, the restaurants and that. I would like to support those restaurants a little bit more, but I can't because I am not going inside to eat, even though we're allowed to and they're doing all the social restrictions and distancing and all things like that. But I'm not going to do it. I'm not taking the chance. I'm sorry. If it comes down to you losing your business or me losing my life, guess whose side I'm on? Sorry. I am very, very sorry. But if I have to pick between the two of us, it's me. It's all about me. Okay? Yeah, and I'm hoping there's a way. Now, if I can order from you and pick it up, then I try to do that as well. But, you know, there's only so much money to go around. And to make sure that you're being supported financially, I will not put myself into financial jeopardy for that. So, you know, whether you eat in or eat out at restaurants, it still costs money. I do it on occasion, but and probably more so than I have done it when we weren't in this situation in terms of picking up food, ordering it online, that kind of thing. But like I said, I need my money too, just like anybody else. And I do feel sorry for you people, and you do have something to whine about, but what's the solution? And this is something. Whiners often don't have a solution. They just like to complain. They just whine. They don't offer any kind of solution, and they expect the rest of the world to solve it for them. Well, that's not going to happen, so keep on whining, because the more you whine, the more people get annoyed. Now, some of these restaurant businesses have been very creative in how they are bringing in income. Yes, it's not what they were used to before, but they're not sitting around and waiting for the government to bail them out, or waiting for out of the goodness of people's hearts to start ordering pricey takeout from them. They're doing things to entice customers, to make it easier for them to, you know, pick up food and things like that. And stores are doing the same thing with curbside pickup, phoning ahead to make a reserved time so you can go in and shop safely, that kind of thing. Yeah, those are not the way we're used to doing things. They're a little bit of an inconvenience, but these stores are putting those in place so they can survive. And I say bully to them. They're not just sitting there whining about the whole situation. They're doing something about the situation to the best of their ability in order to survive. So good for them. The ones who are sitting around doing nothing for themselves, maybe you deserve to go under. You know, I don't know. Hard thing to say maybe, but you know, if you don't do something for yourself, you can't expect other people to do it for you. And then there's the whiners about school. These ones just drive me nuts, because they don't want their kids at home. They want their kids in school. The school should be open. The teachers should be doing this. The class sizes should be smaller. There should be all this stuff put into place for them. Of course, they're kids. The money the government throws at the school system does not help with this situation. And so then they say, well, then I'm taking my kid out of school. Well, make up your mind. Whining to the government about how education is being handled. Again, do you have a solution? I have yet to hear one parent group come up with a viable solution to the problem with kids going back to school. They keep saying the standard stuff. Well, there needs to be social distancing. There has to be protective equipment. They need more teachers. More teachers in a school are not going to solve the situation. Now, this is going to start to veer off onto a different topic, so I'm just going to leave it at that, because that's not my intent right now. But what I'm saying is, a lot of these parents are whining about the situation. Again, they're looking for other organizations, the government groups, to solve the problem for them. I can tell you a simple solution. It's already there, and I've said this before. Keep your kids at home. Put them in front of the computer. Yes, it's not ideal, but it's better than them getting sick or bringing it home to you or to your parents, to their grandparents, or things like that. But sitting around and whining about it and getting out there and going to what would be here in our province, Queen's Park, which is the seat of our legislature, with your protest sign going, you know, my kids matter, and this kind of thing, that doesn't do anything. Nothing at all. What they need to do is come up with a plan, something the government hasn't already offered, and present that to the authorities, to the people that are in power, and say, look, here's a plan. We think this could work. Let's work this out together. But they're not doing that. They're just whining. So I'm going to put money into cheese stocks. because there's so much whining going on these days that I am sure that the price of cheese is going to go up because there's going to be a great demand to serve that cheese with all these whiners. Yeah, I'm being funny in my own way. So I think instead of sitting around and whining about all of this, we try and come up with plans that will help us get through all of this, depending on your situation. But you know, I can't think of what the saying is now. I can't remember what, something about you're part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Something like that, whatever. But just stop the whining. Whining gets you nowhere. And one of the spin-offs from whining is depression. Because the more you whine, the less people listen to you, the less people are going to pay attention and think your whining is legit. And when you see that nothing's being done after all this whining, yeah, I think depression's next out of it. And that's not good for anybody, is it? And there's too many opportunities for us to go into depression right now. So stop the whining and become more active about your situation, because bottom line is this: the only person that can bring happiness to you is yourself. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's talk now about some new things that I have. Okay, I have this little strange looking device. Now, if you watched my idiot quilter this week, I use this. What is this? Well, it's called a Gim Owl. Gimbowl. Now, I was calling it a Gimbowl because that's what it looks like. But Walter said no, he thought it was probably said as Gim Owl. And if you look on the back of it, actually, that's probably how you do say it, because notice how they have printed the second syllable of the word. So, what is this? Well, your cell phone sits in here. It's a holder for your cell phone. But it has an app that you download to your phone, and it connects via Bluetooth to this device, and this device will turn 360 degrees around and it will follow you. You set it up, you get your face in here, a little square comes up, targets your face, and then wherever you move, the camera goes with you. Now, there are a gimbal, what I was calling it, there's hundreds of them on the market, and they're very, very pricey, and they're basically a stabilizer, and they will do this kind of thing as well. In fact, I have one, hardly ever used it, and now apparently we can't use it because Walter said it won't take a charge. And he bought it for me for my birthday a few years ago, and it cost a lot of money. It cost like about $200 for it. And I'm sad to say that I never really used it. This was cheaper. I saw it on Facebook. Now, you got to be careful about ads on Facebook because you can get a lot of crap. But I went into their website, and you can too, and I have it in the show notes below, and I read reviews. And then I went to YouTube and saw people doing independent reviews where they were showing this in action. And I was kind of impressed with it. The price was good. They said that they usually sell it for $79.99. They were having a special, yeah, whatever, $39.99 Canadian. And I got it within a few days. It takes 3 AA batteries in the bottom, and it's right out of the box, you can be using it in literally in a minute, 2 minutes. It is not once you've downloaded the app. And the app is easy to download because on the bottom there's those scan codes. You just put your phone up to those, and away it'll take you to the website. You download it in seconds, and it does all kinds of things. So I thought I'd show you how this thing is operating. Now, am I going to use it when I do my vlogs? Well, I don't really move a lot in my vlogs, so probably not. But there may come a time when I will want to do that. So, you know, there could be some videos that you'll see. Now, I had one problem with it. When I used it on the Idiot Quilter episode 81, everything was in reverse, which was a problem I used to have when I first started making videos. And it was a combination of a problem with iPad technology that I was doing them on, and YouTube. But somehow that got sorted out. Well, this did everything in reverse. And I didn't realize that until somebody pointed it out to me because I hadn't reviewed the video. I'm bad at that. I make them, I put them up, and then I'll watch them a few days later. So I did some experiments on the weekend, and I figured out a workaround that, so I won't have that problem again, as long as I remember to do the workaround. But anyways, here's a little video I made to show you this thing in action.
Okay, so this is my new toy. It's called a gimbal. And a gimbal, or Gim Owl, I'm not sure how you say it, it's Gimbowl, is a little device that you attach your cell phone to, your iPhone, and you can program it so it focuses on your face or on an object, and it will follow you around. So right now you see there's a green box around my face, and I'm going to have it follow me. It has a 360-degree turn on it, and it does keep up not too badly with your face. So you can see I'm going, oops, sorry, got you out of the shot. So you can see I'm going all the way around. Now now it doesn't find me, so I have to get back in here so it'll find my face. Hello? There it is. Doesn't seem to be doing it properly right now. Here we go. We're locked on now. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but it does work. Now the thing is, it wasn't that expensive. It cost me only $39.99 Canadian. And I think it had free shipping on it too, as well. And I got it relatively quickly. You can go to their site, and I have that site in the show notes below. It's Gimbowl, Gimbowl.com, and you can order one. Now, I don't know if you can still get it at the same price I got it at, because it's regularly priced at $79.99. But I don't know if I'd pay $79.99 for it. $39.99 was okay. I'm still experimenting with it, and one thing that I have found, and I'm hoping I'm getting you in the shot most of the time here, one thing that I have found is when I do videos on here, it will flip my video around when I go to post it. But there is a way I can get around that, not with the device, but with editing right in on the photo feature of my iPhone. I can reverse the picture, I can flip it around, and that seems to work okay. So yeah, I don't know how useful this is going to be, but I thought I'd give it a try. So you may see it coming up in some of my other videos. I especially think I'm going to use it more with my idiot quilter than my vlogs. And so that's the Gimbowl or Gimbowl.
So that's my new toy. And as I said, there might be an occasion come up in one of my videos where I will actually be using it. I love my toys. Okay, what else did I buy? So, back on the Christmas theme and quilting, I decided I wanted to make, I have a panel that I really like, and I decided I would do it as a quilt, but do it in what they call an attic window quilt. And what's an attic window quilt? Well, I'll show you a picture of a Christmas one. It's essentially where you take a panel, and the way that you cut your other fabrics and the panel and the way you assemble it gives you the illusion that you're looking out of a window. And that's kind of the thing right there. That's not the panel I'm going to be using nor the colors, but it looks fairly complicated. It's got sort of a 3D effect to it. It's not that complicated. So I thought I would do that kind of thing with the panel I already bought. But the problem was that panel in itself looks like a window. In fact, it is. It's set up like it's in Santa's workshop kind of a thing, and you're looking through a window, which is printed onto the fabric. So I thought it would look very confusing. You wouldn't get the same effect by trying to do a window within a window if you could. So I went off to Ultimate Sewing looking for panels, and I picked up this one. Just get it unfolded here. This one of Saint Nick on a snowy Christmas Eve with his bundle of clothes or toys. Now, do I really like this panel a lot? Well, it's okay, but they didn't have much to choose from. But I picked out my fabrics for all of this, and I, of course, picked up fabrics that go with this panel. So these are the fabrics. They do this when they cut your fabric for you. They'll often, if it's more than one piece, they'll put them together in sort of a presentation style kind of thing, which I love and I hate. I love it, in fact, because it looks very pretty when it's put together like this, but then when I get home, I have to iron it and I have to unfold it all and get it the right way. So extra work, but oh well, don't whine. So these are the colors I will use, and I think it'll look quite good. And it does not look difficult to make. Now, in a traditional attic window block, there are the dreaded Y seams. But this pattern, and I think a lot of patterns now, they do a cheater method. It's not really a cheater method. They do another method where you don't have to worry about Y seams, which is just fine with me. I can do Y seams. Do I enjoy them? No, I do not enjoy doing Y seams. And I think a lot of people don't enjoy doing Y seams. So, bonus on that. And this pattern was a freebie I picked up somewhere online. And although it uses different fabrics, it's the same technique. So that's what I'll use as my guide. And I'm hoping to get to this today and start cutting at least the fabric up for that. I think once it's the fabric is cut, I think it'll sew together relatively quickly. But we'll see. So stay tuned for a future video showing you this Christmas quilt that I'm making. Okay, so that takes us to the website, or what I'm now calling it, website/podcast YouTube channel review. I basically have run out of YouTube channels to review, but if I come across one that I really like, and I do sometimes, then I will be reviewing those. Well, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I am. Yeah, I meant that. There may be still a few more there, but books. This is the time when I would do. I'm all mixed up at the moment. Let me have some coffee. Let me just. Okay, brain back into gear. This is the part where I used to review my books from my stash, my library of books. Well, I've done them all. It took about 2 years, but I've done them all. They're done. I don't have any more. Okay, so as I said last week, I'd start looking at websites. Well, I'm extending that to include podcasts. Now, I'm sure most people are familiar with what a podcast is. A podcast is basically like a radio show, except through your computer. There are several different podcasts I listen to on a regular basis. And one of those that I want to review is by someone who is a staple, a guru in the arting, or in the art, paper crafting, scrapbooking, mixed media world, and that is Julie Fafane Balzer. Everybody knows who Julie Fafane Balzer is. She's an ambassador for the Brothers Scan and Cut machine, but she is an artist. She does all kinds of things. She has a website, she has blogs, she does YouTube, the whole bit. She's been around for a long, long time. And I used to watch her on a regular basis, but over the last little while, well, she had a child, and that's taken up a lot of her time. And she's been doing, if she does videos on YouTube, a lot of them are geared towards people who have a Brothers Scan and Cut. I am one of those people. I have a Brothers Scan and Cut, and it's sitting in a corner, covered up, gathering dust, because I don't like it. And there's things on my YouTube channel from years ago and whatever about this Brothers Scan and Cut. I have a Cricut that I like much better. But anyways, each to his own. It's personal preference. Anyways, I digress. She does a podcast. It doesn't come out every week. Actually, I think she only does it once a month. She does it with her mother. And it's called Adventures in Arting Podcast. And I've got a link for it in the show notes. Very interesting. She interviews sometimes different artists. And when I say artists, people more in the crafting industry. she has a wide variety of things she talks about. She talks about the business side of doing art. She talks about different forms. She'll even talk about quilting as well, although she's more into, the more traditional type of what we think of when we think of art, although she does tons of crafting and whatnot. But it's all very informative, and the style of it as a conversation between her and a guest and her mother, it's just very informative. It's entertaining. I find it relaxing. It's nice to listen to that in the background when I'm doing sewing, and that's when I usually listen to the podcasts that I listen to. They're my background for when I'm sewing. So, if you're new to the world of podcasting, you might want to explore it, because there are hundreds upon thousands of different podcasts. There's something out there for everyone. I know a lot of people listen to podcasts on their way to work, if they have a commute, that kind of thing. It's nice to listen to something. See, I'm the kind of person, I can't watch something and work at the same time. I can listen, but to watch, I know a lot of people will watch movies or things like that when they're, quilting or doing their art or whatever. I can't do that. Because I'm afraid as I'm looking at my project, I'm going to miss what's on the screen. I do that with YouTube channels, but some of the YouTube channels that I watch really are, you don't need to see a visual, you can listen to them. Probably you would feel that about mine too, because I know some people turn me on. Ooh, that sounds interesting. They listen to me or watch me while they're doing something else, and that's fine. I do the same. So whatever works for you. So check it out, Adventures in Arting Podcast. Links are in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes us to Works in Process, and today I have the final part of the book house project. And I will be putting, actually I think I've already done it. I better check that. Bad memory. One way or the other, all those segments that have been in the vlog over the last 6 weeks for the book house will be in one video on my channel. So you don't have to, if you want to review anything or that kind of thing, you don't have to go through all my vlogs for it. So here's the last part. So the last part of this project was to create a little album that would fit inside the house, the book house. And that's what I've done, so I'll just show you. We take off the top, and inside we have this little album. Now I made this little album with blank pages, and I called it Moments. A little piece of glue on there. I gave it the same kind of cover as I put on the signatures, so it would match that. And I made the signatures in this booklet. I put in 6 signatures. Each one has about 8 pages. And I put them together, or held them in, with a gold elastic, which I gathered together in the center to give it that kind of design. The idea here is, when you fill it up, you can take out some of these little signatures and replace them. So as I said, they're all just blank pages. I sewed the signatures together, and that's underneath this little gold part. That's where it's tied in. And I left the tails on the gold because I think it just adds a nice little decorative touch to it. And I alternated the colors of the paper. This is the same paper as I used in the signatures that are in the drawer, except I used the off-white and white on here. And these are thick enough that I think you could actually put a little paint on them or gesso if you wished to. So you could use this not just for a little scrapbook album, but you could use this as a little mini art journal album as well. And they all fit in here quite nicely. Now the cover, or the binding, was one sheet of a thicker, about 110-pound cardstock that I just figured out how big my signatures were going to be down here in the top, and scored 2 lines on either side, folded over, and cut the covers a little bit bigger than the signatures. And as I said, I made this cover piece that I stuck down to the front of this to match the signatures that are in the drawer as well. I did reinforce the spine, you can't tell, but I put 2 more pieces right here in the spine area on the inside, just so that the elastic, although this isn't very heavy elastic, won't cut in to the edges of the spine. And so there you have it, all done.
this cute little bookhouse, as I call it, and I thought this was a whole lot of fun to make. And yeah, it's, it's something that you go to something like Michael's, you see one of these little paper mache houses, and they have other shapes too as well. And just by basically raiding my stash and using my Cricut, I was able to create this fun little bookhouse. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see what I'm making next time.
Okay, so this takes us to events in the past week. My mother, she is fine, crazy as ever. Phoned her at the first of the week. You know that we established a time, 10:30 in the morning would be a good time to get a hold of my mother. So yeah, she picked up the phone within 5 rings and bingo. Not much to talk about because nothing's going on in her life and not a heck of a lot's going on in mine. So it was a short conversation. But the funny thing is this. Later in the week, I tried to get her on Thursday, 3 days later, and it did its usual thing. I phoned her at 10:30 in the morning. It rang and rang and rang. She never answered it. Well, I haven't been able to get to the phone to call her. Again, I will do that today. I think I'm going to start limiting it to 1 day a week. But anyways, simply because we don't have anything to talk about. My sister was over here on Saturday because she had a curtain for her bathroom. She redid one of her bathrooms in her house, and she had this curtain she'd ordered online, and she wanted me to do some alterations to it, so I did. And while she was here, I said to her, "Were you talking to Mom?" She says, "Oh yeah." She says, and this is the funny part, that my mother says to my sister, "Well, Stephen said he was going to call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon every day, and he hasn't done that." And my sister said, because she knew, because I talked to her about this, she said, "No, Mom, he told you he would phone you at 10:30 in the morning, not every day. No, he said 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He's losing it." Okay, pot calling the kettle black there, right? Yeah, I'm not losing it. It's kind of funny. It's kind of not funny either. But I mean, like, no, Mother. But anyways, that was just typical of my mother anyways. You never know if she is losing it or not. I have not. Walter figures she is. I think she might be losing a little bit of it, but my mother's always been the kind of person who will try to manipulate people in whatever means she can. So I don't know. But I just thought, well, that's kind of funny. Yeah, if I'm losing it, Mother, you've lost it. Okay, simple as that. So, moving on, my art journal group met, as we do twice a month. And we met on Sunday before Stephen and Walter live. A Zoom meeting is what I mean. And you can watch that. It's in the show notes. Lots of great ideas come out of that group. They're a fantastic group of ladies. We're a small group, but I always learn something more from them, and that's the whole point of our group. We share what we're working on, and these ladies are making beautiful, beautiful things. Really. I'd like to take them all and set us up as a store and let them sell their stuff, because I know it would probably sell. But then it takes all the fun out of making things too. But yeah, check that out if you want some inspiration for your next paper crafting adventure. And that was about it last week. I spent the week working on my Christmas quilt, doing Christmas projects. That'll probably be the same this week. I think it's time for a little day trip. I'm getting a little antsy. So I'll have to talk to Walter today about that and see what we can come up with an idea. Of course, day trips usually mean I'll spend money, and day trips to me mean going to a quilt store somewhere. And right now I'm thinking of a place north of us that we haven't been to in a bit. That might be an interesting day trip. Yeah. I'm still harking to when we can go back and travel again. But by the looks of things, that's not going to be for a while. So, what's coming up this week then? Oh, well, I have a guild meeting. Oh yeah, that was something that happened last week too. I had a a guild meeting with the general membership, a general meeting, all done by Zoom, and that worked out pretty good. People are getting used to the whole idea of using Zoom in our guild with it, and they seem to be much more comfortable than when we started doing this back in about April or so. So that's a good thing. And I have another Zoom meeting with the executive of the guild, because I'm on the executive, and that's on Wednesday, so I need to do a little prep for that as secretary before we have that. So that's something coming up. And yeah, that's about it. So, final note. I know many of you are getting tired of discussions about COVID. I'm with you on that. I am as well. And yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live, we did talk about COVID, and it was, things that I felt I need to get off my chest about it. Doing a YouTube channel for a lot of content creators is actually cathartic, because we're talking. We're not taking a lot of what we're thinking and leaving it inside to, ferment, kind of a deal. We use this as a sounding board. And I'm not alone in that. As I said, many content creators use it for that, and I use it for that as well too. But I know that there is so much out there about COVID, we just want to turn it off. And yesterday when we were talking on Stephen Walter Live, I noticed in the chat section that a couple of people were trying to hijack the conversation and bring it back to things that were less serious and more about like crafting and things like that, which is fine. I'm not saying anything against that at all. I did say though in it is my channel, I control it, don't try to take it away from me, kind of a thing. And I said that tongue in cheek, but I was also being somewhat serious about it. But I get it. And so I said at the end of yesterday's Stephen Walter Live, I would dearly love to talk about something besides COVID. It's around us, but I think we need to talk about it and keep the conversation going about it, because it's when we stop talking about it, it's not going to go away because we stop talking about it. And to not talk about those things that are bugging us is to be an ostrich with our head in a hole, which apparently is a myth. They don't do that. And ignore things. And if you ignore things, you're not being part of the solution to these things. So we do need to talk about it. But yes, we're being bombarded by this information all the time. So I said on there, I am open to suggestions as to what you'd like us to talk about on Stephen and Walter Live, because quite frankly, I'm running out of ideas. Now, we did a little taste test yesterday with a couple of products, one that we have here in Canada and its equivalent from the UK. And that was kind of fun. And we might do a few more of those as well. Someone suggested yesterday that we do an art attack. Well, we haven't done an art attack in quite a while. So I said, that's an idea. So I've got to think about that today. So I'm thinking that the next Stephen and Walter Live next Sunday will be possibly an art attack. And I'm thinking of doing something on this line. So we'll see. But we can't avoid the situation. But I know it's eating at us, isn't it? Yeah, it's eating at us. So if you have some suggestions for what Walter and I can talk about and get other people involved in for Stephen Walter Live, leave a comment below or send me an email and I'll consider it. Okay? But I'm not going to make any promises that we won't again bring up COVID. It will come up again. As the situation continues to develop, it's going to come up again. It can't be helped. Okay? So, there it is. I mean, if it really bugs you that much, turn me off. You always have that power. Okay, so on that note, and by the sounds of the clock, it's time to go. So I hope you have a good week. I hope you are healthy. I hope you stay healthy. And hang in there. And remember, okay? If you're going to whine, then put it in a glass and just drink it. We'll talk later. See you next week. Bye-bye.